Well, this is my Linux from scratch system. Just do a little neo fetch. Bam, look at that. So I have Steam installed. As you can see right here. And just popping up into Steam. Everything will work just fine. It takes a while to load because I'm on a spinning magnetic drive. Not a SSD. Verifying installation. Give it some time. Why is it? Okay, whatever. Sorry about that. Apparently, everything just crashed. I don't know what happened. Anyway, let's launch Steam again. Xorg just randomly crashed. Maybe there's an overheating problem too, I'm not sure. I hope there isn't. The frame buffer went along, it chugged along, and it was having trouble. Anyway, this is Steam now. So, we have a bunch of games. And I'm going to focus on Geometry Dash for now. Actually, I shouldn't start from this point. So in order to get Steam to work, you need to do a few things. So just searching up Steam repo. Then you have this link, repo.steampower.com/steamarchivestable. And just look through here. And you can find Steam latest tar.gz. So once you unpack this, once you download it and unpack it, then just type in make install. It'll install everything for you. Then you can just, make install. Then just type in Steam. There's a few things that can happen if you're on Linux from scratch. First of all, we could just say that you don't have libc 32-bit. And if that message comes up, then you obviously did something incredibly wrong, which was install the normal version of Linux from scratch. Just go to this link and then view. I do not know how to type. There we go. So you did something wrong if you did it just this way. And I don't mean like you're supposed to install systemd. You don't have to do that if you want to get Steam working. Because on Gentoo you can just run Steam with OpenRC, which has sysv in it. However, there's a little specific branch that Thomas runs called multilib. This accounts for 32-bit libraries and even 32x, but I don't recommend doing 32x, but these instructions call for it. But you have a bunch of stuff for multilib. Both 64-bit and 32-bit. This is assuming that you have a 86-64 system, AMD 64, and you want to get 32-bit libraries going, which is useful if you want to get Steam working. So beyond that, you're gonna have to install the Xorg libraries. You're going to have to install OpenGL, OpenCL, all that good stuff, 32-bit. And if you look through these instructions, it'll show you how to actually do the 32-bit installation of programs, which you can use that as a basis. And a common technique that you'll find is doing cc equals gcc.-m32 and cxx equals g++-m32. There's also going to be a certain circumstance if we're installing Xorg and OpenGL, Mesa, probably, whatever you're wanting to do, where you're going to have to do package config libdir equals 0 lib32 package config. And once you have that entire thing specified, then you can type in your instructions. For instance, if you're doing just a GNU package, configure prefix equals user, if you want to just do user. Or if you're using Mason, you can do Mason setup and d whatever, what have you. So that's the entire installation process. So you're supposed to go through the path of, basically you have all the compilation 32-bit libs. Then you're supposed to go for ALSA 32-bit. And if I were you, I'd also go for Pulse Audio Pipewire 32-bit libs. And specifically libs, not... This goes for anything, but it's just the libs, not the actual application itself. The application runs just fine, but you're supposed to have the 32-bit libs. If you want to get Steam or Wine or Proton to work, you're supposed to have the 32-bit libs. So after all that audio stuff, then you can move on to Xorg 32-bit. Now, depending on what you're wanting to do, you can do Mesa, or you can use libglvnd. So Mesa is for Intel, AMD, and Novu. But if you're doing libglvnd, it's specifically meant for NVIDIA proprietary. But it doesn't have to be, to my knowledge. It's just vendor not specific. So it can work with anything from what I know. But it's made by NVIDIA. But 32-bit libraries. And now you're supposed to do curl and all that stuff, and a good resource is this. Just Arch packages in general. Because, for instance, I'm just going to go to NVEC. A good resource is the package build. This package build will help you so much. Because you can just go to this URL and pick up a package, then go through, there's sometimes a prepare step, but not always. Then you have the building process. And if you follow these, kind of skirt around it or make any adjustments that you want, but it's always going to want to install the prefix user, which is what the Linux from Scratch guide also pushes you towards. Then sometimes they have a dester with Arch packages, don't do this for most packages, unless you're doing libraries. In which case, they're gonna tell you to go ahead and, if I can even find it, probably not the right thing here. Here we go. Yeah, make dest install, and this is for each 32-bit libraries. This is extremely useful because it helps you actually look into the dester install and see if, you know, they're actually 64-bit by going into lib32 and just going file, let's say lib open gl.so.do.0, and you can see if it's 32-bit or not. If it comes up and you thought that you built the 32-bit libraries, but you go into the dester install and you find this 64-bit, you did something wrong, and that's why the dester is so useful, so you can see if the process actually worked. Because if it says 64-bit when you're meant to do a 32-bit install, that is bad. Do not install it. Just don't. So what beyond that? So I'm gonna cover make CA. That's just scratch. BLFS view stable. So you have make CA, and this is what stumped me for the longest time, because the launcher would show up, but at the same time, I was stuck at the login screen. I couldn't log in. The QR code wouldn't load at all. And so what make CA does is super weird. And I made a post on this on the Steam discussions. SSL. And in my explanation, I said you can basically copy etc pki tls certs ca bundle.cert into etc ssl cert ca certificates.crt. This is what you're going to have to do unless you want to create a symlink, which I would probably do. I'm too lazy to actually just delete ca certificates.crt and make a symlink instead. I'm just lazy. But if you do that, then Steam will actually be able to read this and be able to actually make you log in and stuff. The error that shows up if you're launching through a terminal is assertion failed, unable to load trusted SSL root certificates. The error is a little bit different for other people, but apparently I got this error instead. This could be because of how I got it from this repo instead of a different one. I'm not sure, but this is the repo that I went with. So afterwards, I was able to log in and everything, and I was able to download games. The problem, it wouldn't launch at all. So I'm just gonna remove this and try launching. This is what happens. Well, this is what happened. It just didn't launch. It doesn't launch at all. So I was looking around trying to find a solution, and apparently it may indicate a C++ ABI issue. I don't know why or how I could fix this another way, but there was one poster that said, hey, just LD preload OpenAL. At first, I confused OpenAL with OpenCL. Yes, I was an absolute idiot, but this is what actually worked, is actually preloading OpenCL. So what actually happened is if I launched it through a terminal, Steam, and then actually try and play the play button, what would happen is it would give me an error saying that Steam overlay renderer.so cannot be loaded because it was the wrong elf class. And there were two errors in specifically, elf32 and elf64. People have said that only the elf32 or elf64 cannot be loaded. For me, it was both, which was not normal in any way, shape, or form. And I've had someone come after me saying, hey, you're gonna get an error, and I know that. But I got both errors, not one. And I couldn't get anything to launch. However, using this solution, LD preload, user lib32, libnvidia, because I use NVIDIA, opencl.so.1, and user libnvidia opencl.so.1 command, it works just fine. And I can press play, and everything works. It'll launch, and bam, this works just like a charm. I can go in here, I can show that audio works, and I can do everything that I want in Geometry Dash. Everything works. But this is Geometry Dash, a 2D game. Nothing 3D in particular there. However, I downloaded the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Special Edition. Playing this, it would launch the launcher window, and it'll automatically detect your specs and stuff like that. Then when you press play, for me, it would go, the entire screen would go black with the PyCom transition. Then the window immediately closes. Nothing would happen. It basically crashed. And so I was observing the logs and everything, Proton logs, DXVK logs, and I found out, because at the time I had 2 graphics cards in my system, that it was trying to load on the wrong graphics card. And I was unable to create a surface. The D3D object cannot be created. And I looked up, yeah, it was loading on the wrong graphics card. So I'm like, maybe I should take out that graphics card that was trying to be loaded on instead of the one I'm actually using. So I took it out. Then everything worked just fine. Let me just skip. Alright, what the hell's happening? Compatibility force 7. This also happens, and that's what I had to do for Geometry Dash, is that sometimes the Proton updates are kind of mean and will break games. This happens with every single Linux distro. You can't go around it. You're gonna have to deal with it. But now, after I switched out my graphics card, it works. Everything launches just fine. I can play Skyrim, I can do all that stuff. However, if you don't let the Vulkan shaders load, it will make your experience it will make it a lot slower. I don't recommend it in any way. So it's better to wait that maybe 20 minutes even to get that better performance and not have to wait constantly. And all my games work except, you guessed it, Changed and not Reawakening. I'm trying to figure out what's happening, but I believe it's the same issue with Changed. Now if you look on ProtonDB and search up Changed, it says that you have to install Microsoft Core fonts. I don't have Proton Tricks because I haven't installed it, so I can't get this to work just yet. Unless I copy files from my Arch install, which I kind of want to do. But if I do that, then maybe I can do the same for Not Reawakening. And hope that works. But if you don't, there will just be a black screen if I change the Proton version to 7. What? Okay, it works. On my Arch install it didn't, but this works. I can vibe with that. I can vibe with that. But with Not Reawakening, there were no reports, so I couldn't do anything about that. Which sucks, but with OneShot, it's Linux native. Doesn't mean it works on Linux out of the box. So you have to delete some libraries, but there's already guides on how you can do that just fine. But doing that is extremely scary because the libraries are libraries that I know I have installed on my core system. I recognize those library names, and I got scared that I was deleting something that I really shouldn't be doing. That was scary, and I don't ever want to do it again. That was a nightmare. But nothing broke. But that's how I got Steam to work.